connection, haven't you? Your end.
Yeah.
Oh, we're live. So I was going to bring in Jenny in a minute, but we'll just wait for a few people to come in, and then I will introduce you. So how are you, Jenny? How are things?
Yeah, I'm good. We are not
just up the
living
road from
actually
me.
far away. Say that again.
You're just up the road from me.
Yeah, literally, well, an hour away, isn't it? Isn't it weird? Usually we could meet, if the pandemic wouldn't be the case, we could actually sit next to each other and do that,
Well,
which is amazing.
in the summer.
Yeah, we do it when the pandemic is over. Let's do that again.
Yeah, we could go to the cathedral. We could do a live in the cathedral.
Yeah, brilliant. It's an amazing cathedral, isn't it? I like it. It's great.
Like whispering. So the comments will, I'm using StreamYard for the first time, so
yes,
the comments will come up in StreamYard. Will you see them as well?
I do. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think so. At the moment, I can't see anything.
No,
I think you see them.
Right, okay, but I can put them on the screen so you'll be able to see them then.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about setting boundaries for better relationships.
Yes.
And I'm more interested because when you say relationships, we're not just talking about partners, we're talking about relationships with everybody.
The rules
I'm
are
going
the
to
same.
use this with my carers. So I'll introduce you in a moment. Shelley's just come in. Hi, Shelley. And hi, Patsy on Periscope, which is, I can go Periscope here as well.
Yes.
How brilliant is this? I've had that problem for ages.
See?
Hi, Karen, Betty, and Kathy. So this is Jenny, a psychological therapist and relationship coach. And you were just saying before, you help people mainly with boundaries and relationships because that's one of the biggest problems people have. So just before we start, you're the founder of Strong Heart Awakening, and you have a website and a blog, and you have a group that I'll put up the link now, and we'll put up the link at the end. And this is the best place for them to contact you.
Yeah. Come into my group if you want to. So it's free on Facebook.
Paste that up just in case I forget to do it at the end, but I shouldn't. And let's put the link up on YouTube, Periscope. And how cool is that?
It's brilliant. Told you, isn't it amazing?
Sorry, I love technology. So, you know. And I'm currently waiting for a gentleman to come and repair my window. So if I have to duck out and suddenly disappear, it's all over to you, Jenny. And just reminding people, Jenny cannot see the messages. So you'll just talk. And then when I come back, we'll go back to messages.
Absolutely.
So setting boundaries. Why is it so important and why is it so difficult for us to set boundaries?
Oh, I love these questions. Boundary setting, we are very, very scared because nobody wants to look unattractive, complicated, or maybe you are scared to lose the person you are setting a boundary with. And of course, if we talk to loved ones or when we've, friends, families, romantic love interests or partners, they're supposed to not overstep our boundaries. So we are scared. Actually, now we are identifying maybe they don't love us, right? And boundaries is doing one thing. When you set boundaries, you're exposing people because they can now make a choice if they want to continue overstepping your boundaries or if they actually listen to you and want to understand where you're coming from and honor you. So it's, of course, really, really interesting. So often when we talk to ourselves and have a picture and an image of a person in our head, we don't want to destroy a positive image, right? So we don't. And that means maybe we need to see the reality. Maybe you had that gut feeling that your love interest is maybe not that much into you, but you don't want to have that missing that feeling maybe of you have chemistry and you maybe have somebody who's sort of interested into you. Also with family members, we maybe don't want to, have a massive fight with them and question their motives. why they do this, or really don't want to have these grown-up conversations. So it's actually an invitation to really address what your needs are. Boundaries are necessary to understand what are your standards in relationships. How do you deal with people? And what do you do if people overstep those boundaries, violate those standards? What do you do? And how do you address that? And we are scared that we maybe address it in anger, because then we feel helpless. And that is not a pretty picture.
Yeah, I feel as if we could do like this once a week for about 6 months on each one of the steps. And I think boundaries are so incredibly important. And I think most of my problems in relationships, most of my inability to really set boundaries, really, I never really, until recent years, never realized such a thing as boundaries. But I have an excessive need to be liked. I'm the helper. I'm a type 2 on the Enneagram. And that shows in the way I show up. And very similar to, and I'm comparing myself to Obama here now. I don't think for any minute I'm close. But even Obama was on Oprah Winfrey show, and he done an interview, and he leaned into her at the end and he goes, "Was that okay?" And this was after he left office. So he had all of that life experience to tell him that he's doing a good job, and yet he still needed to know that he was doing okay. And that's me. I so recognize that in me. And when I think about romantic relationships, I hold back. I won't say. I'll try to be nice. But what that ends up doing, it ends up bottling up in me. And then I say something and I snap. And it comes out in an unskillful, wise way and makes things a whole lot worse. So the question really is, for me, as someone that has an excessive need to be liked, how do I set boundaries in the way of, because it's such a huge, wide open question. I'm trying to narrow it down a little bit. How do I get over that I cannot upset them?
That's interesting, isn't it? It's almost we use our boundaries, our standards as a currency for love. So you trade them in, you lower the standards and have no boundaries. That means we very likely don't get what we need from a relationship. So what you think you need is that they love you and like you. But isn't it something that we want to be loved and liked for who we truly are and also respected? So what's love? Then we have to ask ourselves, what is truly being liked by people looks like? Does it look like me compromising everything and not rocking the boat because they might be angry? Or what am I after? Then again, I'm after an illusion. I'm after an illusion. I'm only being liked if I'm people-pleasing. People-pleasing is so toxic. And you're right. Not setting boundaries is a form of people-pleasing.
Toxic. I like that. People-pleasing is so toxic. You wouldn't think it was. You would think, well, I virtually sacrifice myself in order to make sure other people are happy. But I don't realize how damaging that is to me and to them.
You lie to them. You lie to them and say, this is me. This is Stephen. I'm okay with that. And you're not. So you literally try to become a person you think they want. But if you have a look, the most charismatic people, the people we are interested in, are the people who know what they want. And they have no problem to set boundaries. It's not if we set boundaries, it's how we set boundaries. And the how is important. You can do this in the most charming, amazing way. And you could do it in the most emotionally or apologetic way. So if you say, oh, I'm so sorry that I have the boundary, that's also a turn off, right? Or you scream at them on top of your voice because you are now so frustrated and so angry that you feel like not loved at all. And now you're going for it because you bottled it up. And then you feel like, gosh, now I lost it. That's not pretty. That's not me. Of course it's not you because you bottled it up for so long. So you actually don't allow people to love you for who you truly are. You try to become a person you think they want. but people don't want to have people who are like adjusting themselves to their needs. That's not healthy. And that's not a person we want in our life, right? Where we feel like, now I have to compromise myself. Of course, we compromise in relationships. So I'm not talking that you start setting boundaries and saying, no, I only go into this restaurant, and on holiday, I only go to this destination. These are not boundaries, right? So this is like,
it's not about choices in that way.
no.
It's about what we're willing to accept and who we
Absolutely.
are. I want to go back to you. You accused, no, you didn't accuse me, but you said we lie in order to, and it's that adage, I'm fine. That's a lie. Sometimes it's not always a lie. Sometimes we are fine. Stop asking.
Yeah.
If you keep asking, I will not be fine in a minute. But very often we'll say, I'm fine. No, that doesn't bother me. No, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, I'm okay doing that. When really we're not. And we're compromising what we want in fear of we don't want to upset them. So before we go to set boundaries, it's amazing the way really I often talk about, loads of people say opposites attract. And I don't believe that for a minute. I believe we're attracted to people that we're trying to bring more of in ourselves out, but we empower it in them, and we disempower it in ourselves. So when it comes to setting boundaries, we're very often attracted to what's deemed as a narcissist. And I'm talking more of an extreme narcissist as opposed to we're all a bit self-important. And someone that needs to embrace that a little more, but cannot. And it seems like they're opposite, but really that person that is screaming and shouting his boundaries or her boundaries really want the other person to stand up and fight back without knowing it. I've quite often seen this when really they're testing the water, and they please set boundaries, but they don't know how to ask the other person to do it.
Absolutely. And the thing is, when we lose control and anger, we lose our power of actually communicating our needs, because nobody will take us seriously. They only take us seriously when we put literally the fear of God into them. And we don't want to really navigate from the fear-based kind of mindset, because then we actually only bully people into accepting our boundaries. We should be okay with people rejecting our boundaries. We should not be okay continuing, a relationship with them in the way that we accept now the new conditions of our compromised boundaries. We should say, look, then we can't actually do all those, we can't carry on like this. This is not my standard. You put a Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl.
Yeah, sorry for putting up a few of the comments.
Yeah, I love it. Cheryl's right. It's self-love. It's self-respect. It's also honoring what your needs are. I think in this world, we can't really channel our needs in the way that we feel. Either it's like, don't say anything because I need to look after myself, or I try to find now a partner who is telling me constantly how amazing I am to feel worthy. But the truth is in the middle, isn't it? Somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, that was... you look there right there.
Yvonne, good morning.
The other thing is, as we grow up, when we're going through the different stages of growing up, we either have an allergy towards something or we have an addiction towards something. It's very similar to everybody. And it's having that healthy balance in the middle, like you were just saying. Now, if you've got a very boundary setting parents, and you've lived your life with really strict boundaries, what you can and cannot do, what you can and cannot think, what you can and cannot, in every way, you will either grow up not being able to set any boundaries. And I kind of recognize this, but my parents weren't that strict. I had a more of a perfectionist stepdad, which I don't mind, but it's, if you do something, you do it properly. Which in many aspects has been brilliant. In some aspects is not so brilliant. But I just wondering whether to bring up something or not. More so, it's finding that balance between it. So you end up with this real allergy towards I cannot set no boundaries, or I have to set every kind of boundary. Everything has to be down those rules.
Mm.
And nearly everybody I come across is either really against setting any boundaries or absolutely we need to have boundaries on everything.
Mm.
And isn't it recognizing where we are
Mm.
before we can do anything with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to also look what a boundary really is. So a boundary is actually an action step. It's not only words, it's an action step. So I use very strong language. A lot of people say, "Oh, why do you say it's lying if I'm not saying a boundary?" To just check people out, right? Because it is. It's like people pleasing would be the same thing. It's lying. So with a boundary setting, for example, this is an action step put to protect your standard. So you have an idea how your life should be with that person, how they should behave, right? So let's just have a look at a very negative boundary setting or control. If it becomes controlling, I want to control somebody's behavior so they fit my standards, they fit my idea, my image of that relationship. I have to be very careful because then again, I don't want to expose people. Then I use a boundary to control people to expose themselves. That's dangerous. For example, if you have a partner and you feel like, I have a gut feeling that they like maybe somebody, and when they're going out with a bunch of friends, there's a possibility they might cheat on me. So I'm now controlling that they never ever see that person. So you actually promote that control over the situation. You want to control that they don't expose themselves. And then you call it a boundary. And that's not it. You should let people expose themselves. Boundaries should expose people and not hinder the reality. So if they're going out and doing that to you, great. Then you finally know that they're not your person, right? They're not your person. If they do this to you, there's free will. You need to give them free will. But you're right. Lots of people use boundaries to control the situation. And so it goes their way, or it looks like it's okay. And we use that too. And we call it a boundary. It's not a boundary. It's a control mechanism so people cannot expose themselves. A healthy boundary is actually a boundary that will expose people. So for example, your partner is flirting with other people in front of you and they think it's great, and that's, for example, toxic too, right? And you say, look, I'm not cool with this. I would not dream of doing that to you. I respect our relationship far more than I would lead other people on and thinking they have a chance with me, right? So that's a boundary setting. That doesn't mean I control this person now and make sure they're not going out on their own, for example. I want that they expose themselves. With this boundary setting, however, I can see a reaction. I can see the reaction of like, oh, you're right, I'm sorry, I will not do this again. Or you are insecure, I do it anyway. You have to deal with this. We want that people expose the reality. Boundaries are so important because it shows you where this relationship is. It's not testing. It's like really understanding, what do you want? What kind of relationship do you want? And how do you communicate if something gets violated, right? But you need to be okay with people rejecting you and seeing the reality of what is. And then you can move forward. Great, that person is not it. So you're closer to the person you're supposed to be, to the job you're supposed to be, to the friend you're supposed to be. You use it for any relationship. It's the same thing in the professional world. Use the same mindset in the professional world with your family, with your friends. It's the same thing. It's only a different connection we have in that relationship. So professional, friendly, romantic, right? Or family. So it's like the same thing. We need to use boundaries in a healthy way, not in a controlling way.
So a healthy and controlling way. What you said, I don't think you said the word fear, but when you set a boundary through fear, that's normally through control, because that's something you're not dealing with. So you don't set a boundary. Can you talk a little more on setting a boundary where you're trying to get another person to do something because of your issues and stuff you haven't dealt with yourself.
So, for example, you have an insecurity, right? You have an insecurity. You
Yeah,
had maybe a relationship where somebody cheated on you. Now you go over into the next relationship. So this person maybe wants to go out. So your partner maybe went out and met lots of other people and they cheated on you. So you now assume you want to control that. So you took the wrong idea out of what you learned in that relationship. And instead of being okay that they expose themselves and they're not your person, and you move on and try to heal your broken heart, of course it will hurt, right? You now assume that the next person will do it too. Of course, they might do it, but you need to be okay with that. So the boundary setting is not, you're not allowed to go on your own out because I'm insecure. We have to own our insecurities. So my vulnerability, I can talk to them and say, look, this happened to me in a relationship, and I might come a little bit off insecure when you are going out on your own because I still have to deal with these things. I still have trust issues. I'm still worried about that. We need to open a conversation about that. So, and a secure partner will understand that. They will not necessarily not people please, and they say, look, you know, I'm not that kind of person, but I think it's healthy that I also have my own friends where I can go out and I will come back to you. Let me prove it to you, right? So we need to find that conversation. And we have to have a look. The worst thing they can actually do is saying, okay, I'm never going out on my own, so I'm not working on my insecurities, on my vulnerabilities. No, I avoid it, right? But I should really talk to people then about that I feel maybe a little bit off-putting or really overreact or get really nervous when that happens because I'm not healed. And of course, sometimes we can't completely heal all of our wounds because people have that myth of like, I need to be perfect before I go into the next relationship. Hey, you will not find out if you are perfect for the next relationship if you're not try it, because all of a sudden, ta-da, you're in a relationship and then, oh, there's another insecurity.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another vulnerability. Oh, so we learn from relationships.
So really, we're moving from partner to partner, trying to look for that partner that is going to bend to. So we're then comfortable with all the stuff we haven't dealt with, and we try to use boundaries and control to deal with the stuff that we're carrying by controlling them. And boundaries are not about that.
It's great, isn't it? You can talk about that all day long because it's a process you need to go through. So a healthy boundary is like, for example, a healthy boundary is that when I'm meeting people, right, friends, for example, then I make sure I'm on time. If I'm not on time, then, you know, they're waiting there, they're looking maybe a little bit stupid when they wait for me in a restaurant and the waiter comes and they say, do you want to order food? And I'm not there. And I'm 20 minutes late. If I'm doing that constantly, I want that somebody tells me that. A healthy boundary is inviting people to grow into the best version of themselves. It's promoting a healthy mindset, not
for
controlling.
For them as well as you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so a boundary is a two-way thing.
Yeah,
it
always
benefits
is.
both sides.
Absolutely. You got it, Stephen.
Okay, I'm kind of excited about this because I'm like,
yeah.
I've always seen boundaries as really, I set the boundary more so it improves my life, but boundaries can really improve the other side's life. And also, if we set a boundary, we have to be willing to sit in that boundary as well. So if we ask other people to be on time, we better be on time ourselves as a boundary.
Got it. So of course, if we have, and that's also where we fall flat on our faces. You know, people when they say, oh, you know, my life is such a mess. I'm not organized. I think I need a partner who can organize that for me. Right?
Oh, I recognize that.
Right. So let's invite some structure. And then first of all, you know, it's like a person who has a healthy boundary mindset. They will say, look, you need to sort yourself out. I'm not your parent, right? I'm not there for that. You know, this is very, very interesting, but it's like a two-way street. We have the duty. So see it like this. If you have problems with boundary setting, you have the duty to help people also to become the best version of themselves, to also understand we are only going for high caliber relationships. We are not negotiating anything below. We don't do mediocre. We don't do low. We want that people understand the mindset of a high quality and a high caliber relationship. And we should go for that, no less. And I, as a person, I love now inviting people to challenge my boundaries, to challenge my standards, because then I can invite them into a lesson that it's not going to happen with me in the nicest way, because I want that they live to their highest potential possible.
So hold that thought a moment then, because I'm going to go to the comments, because I haven't read the comments for a while because I've been so fascinated. I'm like, oh my God, I'm loving this. I'm actually going to go and set some boundaries for myself and get and almost get my carers to help me set some boundaries. Because it's so easy to see others. And I was laughing because I think of all the dating, the on the dating sites, the profile that I've written for myself and all the profiles that I've read, which are really a pleading to meet someone that is already doing what I want to do. That's basically what they are, because most people, if you go back to their profiles and go, okay, so are you really sitting on the beach a lot of time? Are you really doing water sports? No, but I want to. Yeah. Oh, so you're not living the way you want to. You want someone else to enforce their lives on you to improve your life. No, sort your life out. Yeah, it's just like, okay, it's like I want to meet someone that doesn't drink, that does charity work, and I spend all my time in the pub and expect to meet them there.
Absolutely. So it's like an invitation. So whatever you believe in this world, whatever faith you have or non-faith you have, what spiritual beliefs you have, see it like this. Life is inviting you to become better. It's checking on you. Are you having your standards in check? Or are you now compromising your standards in life and not having a boundary? And that's okay. Great. So that's your currency. So you pay for that in a relationship you don't want. And people think it's okay. Or sometimes we trade one boundary to another. Hey, do you know what? You done this mistake 5 years ago. So I have, I have a voucher from you. So I now violate one of your boundaries because you've done that. No. That's not working this way. So we take responsibility. We apologize. And we say, yeah, but that's not working like that, because guess what? I grew. And guess what? I'm not having it.
Yeah, helping people to guide boundaries rather than pointing fingers where, because we're all going to mess up.
Yeah, we do. So don't feel like people say, but you haven't done that. Yeah, well, you changed. You can change today. You can say today, I realize this is not what I want. This is not the standard in my life I want. And we're not talking about materialistic stuff. That's mindset stuff we are talking about. Yeah. We want to have higher standard relationships, higher caliber relationships. You start with yourself, setting these standards and work on yourself. Shelley, I lived that life for 25 years, never again. Boundaries are so necessary and bring peace. Yes, they do. And they don't at the same way, because you better learn how to rock the boat.
Yeah.
Cheryl, I do believe that toxic energy from relationships, that dump negativity, I get established boundaries with the amount of time I spend with them now. I do this in a kind way, saying no too much. They wish to do with us, doing in a kind way. It's life-changing. Yeah, and you're not screaming at them, because guess what? We are used to screamy people, so we are already desensitized. Yvonne! Karen, I don't feel worthy to accept boundaries. That's interesting. I would like to know more about that statement. I don't feel worthy to accept boundaries. Oh,
yeah, that was a little while ago. So Karen might have put a little bit more.
That's okay.
Remind us to go back to that, Karen.
Yes, please. Explain maybe a little bit more. So yeah, it's like we are getting invited to become the best version of ourselves. So you need to get excited. And like I said, people scream all the time at us when we overstep boundaries. So we are already desensitized in this world. It's like, I don't take you seriously. And now I rebel against you. So you scream at me, I will not listen to what you have to say and do the opposite. So of course we need to say it in a really charming, charismatic, grounded, heart-centered way. And it's possible, even with the worst boundaries, overstepping of boundaries ever. Betsy, so good to see you on here. I have been fearful to tell my boundaries for fear of reaction. You have to know your audience. Some people react badly to hearing them. Yeah, but that's all their problem. This is actually, I would like to answer that, Stephen. People will use their negativity, their rejection, their anger to stop you setting boundaries. It's their weapon. People will not say, hey, yeah, you have a boundary, now I will react happily or move on. People will try to destroy that kind of boundary. And they will do this in, you feeling like walking on eggshells, or they're screaming at you. And what you be is like grounded. You come from a very grounded approach. They put that fear into you, of course, because they know it works. So now, guess what? What you have to do, you rock the boat and you are fearless. They can scream on top of their voice. They can, threaten you with whatever. I don't know what they're threatening you with. You are standing there like a German oak tree. You stand there and you're not moving. And that takes guts. I understand that, because people will use that weapon. It's a weapon, Betsy. It's a weapon. It's a weapon. And you should not allow them. A standard, a boundary should be, you are your weapon. You need to be weaponized. You need to say, look, I understand that you don't like that. However, I'm not having a relationship like that. And your reaction to my boundary setting is telling me that you're not happy. So we need to talk about what kind of relationship this actually is. Because this is not, I'm not accepting that. I'm not dealing with disrespect in that way. I have so much more respect than to talk to you in this way. And this is not how I run relationships or have arguments. Kate, I like how you said they're not your person. Yeah, in the event. Yeah, they're not your person. If a person, of course, I'm not saying that they're evil or bad or anything like that. They do it for a reason too. So you trigger them. They maybe, learned to break boundaries down and getting very angry or begging you or blaming you or telling you it's nonsense or anything like that, because that's how they got away with it all their life. It's your duty to tell them what you do there is unhealthy and it ain't working with me, not with me. So you help them actually to grow too. And that's painful, of course. I'm not saying boundary setting will always look nice and we have the perfect words so they will not flip, for example, but we need to let them flip and you need to be okay with that. It's like really learning how to deal with this. This is cook stuff. Really cool stuff.
I like that, Raven.
Raven, thank you for joining.
So,
okay, thank you.
We're going to go back to, I can't remember.
I know, you can talk about that forever. And I have people, I'm getting excited. Boundaries are attractive. You become highly attractive. If you are a person who knows what you want and you can let go of a person you love who's not accepting your boundaries, do you know how powerful this is? Walking away in love, and it's never lost forever. That's the secret.
Yeah,
people will admire you for that, actually.
See, I tend to do that. I don't walk away. I believe I'm the one walking away, but really they've pushed me away, and then I become the martyr in my own mind of the relationships. I'm like, oh, I love so much. I got such a big heart and it's so broken. I would love you to the end. And really, because of that, I don't set boundaries and all that, nowhere near as much as I possibly should. But whenever I do set a boundary, I always think it's going to push people away. Really do. One day my repairman said, I'm going to leave it to you for a few minutes and I will be back. I'm going to go.
Okay, perfect. Let's talk about that. Okay, so let's talk about it until Stephen comes back. And I can't see your comments. I'm so sorry. So Stephen will come back to it as soon as his repairman is gone. So boundary setting, of course, is never pretty. It's not pretty. I'm not saying that it's easy, that you can like easily set boundaries and you will not rock the boat at all. And there are words you can say, for example, that they are not flipping. Of course, it will trigger something off in them too. And like Stephen says, for example, he doesn't want to push people away. So sometimes we compromise our standards and that we don't set any boundaries because we rather have them in our life than not have them in our life. However, we feed a very negative behavior pattern because now you taught them to how they learned how to actually remove your boundaries. So you gave them a tool or they used a weapon, right, to remove your boundaries. And now they use that weapon over and over and over and over again. That's the reason why I'm saying do not set a boundary and they get angry. And now because they get angry, you don't talk about that anymore. Because guess what? Next boundary setting, next thing, they take back control. They will use the same weapon again. This is when we say, I don't know what happened to my relationship. They are always so controlling, or they are always, when they argue, they use that kind of weapon. And I feel now unloved, violated, because they will try it and also really remove other boundaries with that. Because they, guess what? They're scared of losing you too, in some kind of way. Or it becomes uncomfortable for them to actually, work on themselves. Hi, Stephen. We are just talking.
Hello.
About pushing away boundary settings. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's carry on what I was saying. Farrell saying the same. I think that's Farrell. He's saying he does the same thing. You gain confidence. Yeah.
Absolutely. You get a hype out of it too. Of course, there's always a little bit of ego involved because you think, gosh, I won an argument. Oh gosh, I stood up for myself and they could not now use the weapon again, right? And remove my boundary. So we can't, if you just do a boundary setting and somebody is not accepting it and is really toxic to you and say you're ridiculous, you're insecure, if you set this boundary, I will leave you, you need to double down. This is the time where you need to double down. If somebody's doing that to you, you need to say, right, now I'm 100% sure you're doing this. I'm 100% sure this relationship shouldn't be in this way. This is not good for you and for me. And you need to double down. It's like really important.
My real big takeaway right at this moment is the fact that boundaries, I always thought were really, whenever there was a problem with boundaries, I thought it was my problem with boundaries. Whoever has a problem with boundaries, it's their issues. It's their things that they haven't dealt with. It's their insecurities, things like that. So if they've got a problem with your boundary, it's their problems, not your boundary. Your boundary is not the problem, unless it's an unreasonable one. But
yes,
it's unlikely to be unreasonable if you've got the courage to come up with it and try to talk about it. It's unlikely to be unreasonable.
Yeah, we want to come from a secure attachment style. So secure, even if you come up with a very controlling boundary, this person who loves you will say, look, let me understand where that comes from, because what you're accusing me of or want to control or set a boundary is not true. So where's that coming from? Let's sit down. We want to have mature relationships, not relationships where we now get all the weapons out and now we hurt each other, right? To stop talking about it, because it's a wound, isn't it? It's a wound people need to heal. And often we don't see the wound because people use weapons to stop you talking about it, to stop that. They don't want you to see their vulnerability in it.
Because we do the same equally. We set the boundary to prevent our wound opening up. So it's on both sides equally. It really is a two-way street, these boundaries. It's not all about getting the world to go with the way I want things to be. It's not about controlling the world and controlling others. What Raven says is very similar to what Karen's just come up with as well. So I'll go to Karen's comment right after this one, because you can answer them in both the same similar way.
It ain't working with me. They move because they cannot draw or use you. What can you explain that a little bit more? Maybe you see a little bit more in the comments.
I think if you answered this, I think it'll answer Raven as well.
Okay, what I didn't understand what she means. What is not working? What isn't working?
It's more so that the more boundaries you don't feel worthy to set the boundaries, and therefore they move away, and therefore you're frightened of pushing people away again. That's what I was taking from that.
Oh, you mean people pleasing? We are not setting boundaries because we feel like we deserve this relationship. That's what we do,
and we haven't got the courage ourselves to set the boundaries, so therefore we don't. In the fear of them moving away, and I think Karen's on the similar thing.
So you mean that we push people away and they are not in our lives anymore, and that's the reason why we don't set the boundaries?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's people pleasing.
Yeah.
So if that really is the case, if we, first of all, like I said at the beginning, we're lying to them who we are. So we try to become a person we think they want. Then we fall into a trap of trying now to predict what they want. So you are not yourself, and that will be toxic in itself. So you will attract then a relationship you don't want. You can't tell me that you are then happy in this relationship, because now you're compromising. You will build up resentment, and on one point you will flip, and they don't understand even why. Sometimes we don't set the boundary because we have vulnerabilities and we have our own flaws, because, like Stephen said earlier on, you better work on your standards. You better make sure that what you ask of them, you deliver to. Or maybe you think, I'm not perfect, I want this. And in that department, that standard of setting and boundary setting, I'm perfect, but I do other stuff where I'm not good at, where I know I violate their boundaries. Remember, I told you sometimes we trade one violation against another, one boundary against another. That's the toxic thing you can do. You need to own up to your own vulnerability and your own mistakes. And that you better do this, because if you want to have a high quality, high caliber relationship in your life, you work on yourself. And that's the reason why people don't do it. People want then mediocre lives, where we mold in front of the TV on the couch, become a couch potato, and we mold in. And when our time is up, we can say, oh, well, we had a relationship, but was it happy? Did it nurture you? That's the reason why a really healthy relationship will not judge you. They will not judge you. They will say, of course, I know you have mistakes too. Yeah. But they will encourage you to also raise your standards and accept their boundaries. And this is where we become amazing. These are then power couples. These are then people who grow together spiritually, right? And in life, when they come and turn up to a party or an event, you think, wow, they grow together. You can visibly see how much they have grown. We want that because it will rub off on every area of your life, in your job, in your health, mentally and physically, because this becomes then a very fertilized, really nurturing ground. And that's
not
what
just
we
in
want.
the relationship as well. It's growing outside of the relationship as well. I very often say there's three parts of a relationship. There's me, there's them, and then there's the relationship, which is three separate things.
Yes,
where very often we get into a relationship and we often think we're us now. Forever it's us. No. You need something outside of the relationship that's healthy as well. And the other person should endorse that and embrace that.
Absolutely. And it's
the mistakes I've made in relationships. I can remember one person coming to me, and I was with her at a time, and she said, well, I'm going to take some more lessons in extra things, and I'm going to learn this, that. And I said to her, oh, are you sure that's okay? Are you sure you're going to be able to cope with that, with your time frame and all that? Which really, I wasn't saying, are you sure you're okay? What I was saying is, have you got enough time for me? Are you going to be tired for me? Are you going to be? And of course, it didn't land very well what I was saying, because she could see what I was saying, but I thought I was looking after her. And I really wasn't. Just 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So it's like boundaries are helping us to set the right tone in our relationships. It's really important. And we learn, like Stephen was just saying a minute ago, we are learning. We are learning how to set them. We are learning how to actually identify when we ask something for, in our relationship, is that purely because we need it, or is it beneficial for both of us? It's really fascinating. So you want to actually, we want to aim to go for high caliber relationships because this is where the most growth comes from. And I will mention that when Stephen comes back. People who are not accepting your boundaries, they're cutting your wings. Do you know how many relationships we cut each other's wings because we are scared we outgrow each other? We should grow with each other. A person, in a healthy relationship, when somebody now comes to me, and in the past that was for me too, when somebody criticized me and said, Jenny, I don't like it, you overstepped the boundary there, I was hurt too. In the past, I would react to it and defend myself, and then you get in an argument instead of saying, okay, sorry, if I've done that, that was not my intention. So let's talk about that. What's going on? So we want to grow with each other instead of a lot of relationships, professionally, friendly, romantically, or family relationships, they cut each other's wings. So you can't fly. So you can keep in that compromised relationship and that toxicity of a relationship where you wonder, why am I not growing? You're not growing because it's toxic. You are not helping each other grow. This is, if you have a look, when people say, oh gosh, I love this relationship because you make me a better person. That is brilliant. And I hope it's the case because we encourage ourselves to grow, work on our vulnerabilities, addressing our vulnerabilities and insecurities, right? And that we really nurture each other and give the space as much as we also say, look, I think our relationship should be better. It should have a higher standard. And I'm not saying again that villas and expensive cars, that's not what I mean. Standards, I mean, is like how we treat each other. Everything else is a side effect that comes anyway. So if you want to really, blossom into the best version of yourself, you need to have a partner who cuts away the weeds with you together and it's not hurting you. Who's not, who's not blaming you for having these boundaries because you are not perfect in other areas where you maybe don't set these boundaries very clear. We are all a work in progress. All of us. We are all moving towards becoming a better version every day. And relationships are so brilliant because they invite us to be this better person. And often we don't set boundaries because we think we can't set boundaries because we are not perfect. That's not about that. You should set boundaries even if you've done mistakes in the past. If you maybe overstepped other people's boundaries in a certain area, you're still allowed to set boundaries. It's a duty you have to do. But then it's also a duty for you to understand that when other people have boundaries, talk to them about it. Don't talk down on them. Just say, look, listen, I don't understand your boundary. Let's talk about it. Or own up to your own mistakes and say, yeah, I maybe sound like a hypocrite. I've done that in the past too, but now I want to change. And that's the reason why I'm setting this boundary today. So it doesn't matter if you are in a relationship for like 20 years or just 20 hours. Right? You are allowed to reset your boundaries at any given moment. You don't have to be perfect to set boundaries. That's where people move on. This is where we spiritually mature too, where we grow into the better version. And that's what you actually want to do. You want to grow in that better version. And we are so scared of it because we think we fail. That's the reason why we often don't set the boundaries, because we feel like we will never be a higher standard. We can't attract better people because we are not worth it. We have done mistakes in the past. We have not set boundaries clearly enough, or even not lived by our own standards because we traded them in for maybe some short-term happiness or benefits, whatever that was. And that's okay. We all make mistakes. It's just learning how to move on, take the responsibility, and just learn how to set boundaries. And that's a beautiful space to be. So don't be scared about boundaries. People are always so massively scared to, move forward and starting with boundaries. And even if you wobble, even if it's not perfect, even if you're screaming, you can always say, okay, go back to them and say, look, how I brought across my boundary, I screamed at you. I'm not perfect either. But this is my mindset. This is what I want. If you can't accept that boundary, we need to renegotiate what kind of relationship that is. Because I want a respectful relationship, a relationship where I can grow and I bring that to the table, or at least I'm willing to work on that. And that's beautiful. So boundary setting is so much more than just controlling a situation. It invites you to grow too. And not only in boundary setting, but also looking what's possible in your life. And there are people out there, believe you me, who will love you for setting boundaries. Now, Stephen comes back. Look.
I've just got to
Hi.
say, what a legend you are. That I was talking to a gentleman who was talking about that he'd lost some family up country because of COVID. And he's saying that my window's repaired as well. And I was just thinking, you're there talking, you haven't had no new comments, and what a legend you are. Thank you.
Oh, more than welcome. We can talk. I can talk about boundaries all day long. You know what I mean? It's like I want to people understand that this is an invitation that life invites you to become better. This is the biggest personal development kind of course you booked. It's your life, your relationships. They invite you every single day. The toxiest of relationships and the best. And we should aim for the best, where you can grow, where you can be yourself, where it's a sanctuary, where it's it's nurtured and not like a toxic, place where you feel like you have to compromise. And I was talking earlier when you had to talk to your repairman there. It's like we should not cut our wings in our relationships. And a lot of relationships do this. We cut our wings because we don't want to set boundaries. Boundaries help you to fly.
I know. I just never seen. There's so many ways of setting boundaries, but the healthy way of setting it is about getting the best out of us and them and everybody around us. Like me setting boundaries with carers, what I'm willing to accept, what I'm not, and what they're willing to accept and what not from each other, and all that as well helps the whole team and everybody. And it knows where we are as well. And it's not about control. I'm so relieved by that, because I have such an aversion to control. I don't want to control people, because partly I feel I'm not worthy. It's not my place. It's not my job. I realize I cannot control others. And I'm so warmed by the fact that setting boundaries, I don't have to control people.
No, you don't. It's not. It's like an invitation to live a better, happier life, a more mindful life. It's mindfulness. If you look, that's your meditation practice. Boundaries are your meditation practice daily. It's not like sitting on a cushion and I love meditation. You love meditation. I love your meditations too. It's like that is meditative practice. Life and in color every single day. You should be excited. And now some people say, Jenny, you're strange. You should be excited if somebody's challenging your standards, because now, life invites you to become mindful. Wow. How do you react? That's your power. Your control is in how you react to the situation. Yeah. Cheryl, if they do not accept your boundary, they may attempt to play the guilt trip on you, realization that it is their challenge, not ours. Absolutely, not my monkeys. Absolutely, not my challenge. How they treat you, you mean probably you will say a lot. Establishing these boundaries is is loving yourself enough to do it. You can do this in a kind way. Yeah, you just say, look, you don't have to scream. Even if somebody cheated on you and you found out, and now what? Now they say maybe very nasty things to you. It's your fault because you don't treat me right, blah, blah, blah. And what you say is like, you made that decision. You should come to me and talk to me about it. And if I have not reacted well to this or contributed to this, we need to talk about that. But this is an ultimate violation, and I find it disrespectful, and I would never do this to you. And now what? Where's our relationship now? What can we do to fix that?
Yeah.
And it hurts, I know. And I'm not saying you should not be allowed to cry. You can say, this hurts very much. If you feel you need screaming, tell them, look, I need to really collect my thoughts for a minute. Can we talk about that in an hour or something? So, of course, don't run away, but it's
putting up a link to your group again. It's a free group, and you go live every Wednesday, if I remember.
No, every Friday I go live
every
in
Friday.
the group at 2 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. UK time. And I run regular free workshops in there to build a foundation in exactly that. High caliber relationship and standard and boundary setting is a really massive part of that free workshop. Next one comes up 12th of April. So it's a week after Easter. So, yeah.
I'm going to apologize to many of these comments because I want to go to all of them, but we're just not going to be able to.
That's okay.
We're going to have to do this again in about a month's time. Are you okay for about another 10 minutes?
Of course I'm okay, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. I want to respect your boundary because we said about an hour.
No, that's okay. How long? Yeah, 56 minutes. That's okay. I love talking about it. I always have a buffer zone anyway.
Because I want to move on how to start setting boundaries. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge topic, but just leaving them with something. Now we don't have to feel guilty about setting boundaries. No. How do we think about what boundaries we need to set and how to start to set them? I think that's about as far as we can go in one.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I do it in the 5-day workshop. That's for free on the 12th of April. But quick thing. I'm a big believer of journaling. Because often people don't even know what they want from life. Or they say to me, I want to be happy. That's great. So I want to have a happy relationship. Great. So how does that look like? How does a happy relationship look like? How do you know it's happy? How do you know it's good? How do you know it's true? How will that show? And what kind of red flags or boundaries that are not acknowledged or overstepped, what can happen to them? And that is a lot of work.
So you need to understand on happiness.
Yeah.
What's your benchmark on a happy relationship? What does that mean?
So it's really stepping back a bit and understand, what do I want from life? Because often we want to copy and paste relationships. We see somebody, oh, they got married, they're happy, they have children. I do exactly what I think they do. You don't know what they do. You copy the surface. And then, often when we look behind that, when relationships break up or something, we are shocked because we thought they were happy. No, it looks from the outside brilliant. It's an inside job. It's really sitting down. And if you're in a current relationship and you're not happy, why are you not happy? What happened? And it's like I said earlier, when you stepped away a little bit, it's like you can set boundaries at any given moment. Start with little things. Start with saying, right, I don't actually like that. And be charming. Say, look, I'm not good with this. Could be anything. Could be your friend who's constantly late and you let them get away with it. And you address it and you say to them, look, I'm not good with this. Actually, I found it disrespectful because I'm standing here for an hour or whatever. And you're turning up always an hour late. I think it's disrespectful towards my time because it's your time, it's your life. You don't get that hour back.
Okay. Taking that example. So it's not about something happening on a one-off. It's something that happens a few times because someone can be late all the time. Or someone could be late for a good reason. So if you find yourself in the same situation again and again and again, and it's not comfortable, it's not something you find pleasant, there might be a boundary that you can set in that situation.
Yeah,
so practice. In this example, and journaling helps you to do that because it helps you to remember a pattern of what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
That's
Just
partly why I love journaling. So
yeah.
the pattern is these people are always late in my life, and it annoys me because I'm on time. Now then, if we approach them in what you've just said, which for many of us would be quite awkward to say to someone, look, I feel you're disrespecting me. I feel that this isn't fair. You're quite often late. You're making me late and things like that. The immediate thing is I would feel uncomfortable doing that, albeit I think it's the right thing to do. So perhaps a better way I'm thinking, and I'm is I don't know if I got a better way, to be quite honest.
There's a better way.
I just
I
feel my fears creeping up in being able to go to someone and saying that.
You don't have to do this. You can just write it down on paper, Stephen. You can just, for example, a boundary. What is a boundary? Boundaries are not only words. Boundary is a consequence. So next time when your friend is late, you're not waiting. You're going home. There's a consequence.
So really, on that example,
yes.
Instead of sitting down and tackling them about it, we could turn around and next time we say it, say, just mention that I'm short of time. Could we both make sure we're on time?
Yeah.
Or because I'm working on my lateness, so can you help me with a boundary that I'm, and if we frame it from that they're not the problem.
Right, what you do. So you don't have to write now everything down, people violated. Now you come to them and tell them they are confused. Of course, you wait for the next invitation. If it's something that happens every day or constantly and you're in a really like romantic relationship, you can sit down, can mention that. If it's a friend or anything like that, wait for the next opportunity. And now you react differently. Instead of standing there and waiting and then maybe saying, I'm not actually cool, they might not listen to you because you let them get away with it. You honor yourself. What you can do is text them and say, look, I'm off because you're late again and I'm not waiting around anymore. You instantly it's an action step, right? That would be an absolute action step. If somebody's constantly talking down on you, so some relationships do this, for example, they scream at each other, talking down, calling each other stupid, sometimes even in front of people, you react differently this time. This time, for example, if you have a partner who is belittling you in front of other people, you try to catch them by himself or herself, drag them away from the people. So you are having a one-to-one talk and say to them the following. You say, look, what happened here? I think it's disrespectful. I don't want to be treated in this way. I would never treat you in this way. If I've treated you ever in this way, I apologize. But this is not how I want this relationship to work and be run. I'm not having this anymore. This is unacceptable. You don't scream in front of them because that's what we often do. We then use their same technique to win the argument over.
Enough, and we wait till our inhibitions go away before we tackle them. And it's not the tackling; it's coming from that skillful wisdom of from a calm place as opposed to an angry place. So don't try to set a boundary when you're angry with them.
No, don't. I mean, you will learn that in that time too. In by setting boundaries over time, you will learn that you actually not taking that personally. That you know that this is now a vulnerability somebody shows you. So if somebody, like people say, oh, I'm together with a narcissist, they do this and this and this, don't feed into that, right? So it's like really not screaming in front of other people if you get belittled, if that's, for example, the example I've chosen. So it's like really talking to them in a one-on-one and say, you are not having that. Do you know how powerful that is? And if they say, oh, you're stupid anyway and everything like that, then you have to, really terminate this relationship. You have to end it. You have to honor yourself. You have to say, then this is over. I'm not being treated this way. And don't feel like because they screamed in front of other people, have an argument with you and screamed at you or belittled you, that you lost, they have exposed themselves pretty much.
Yeah.
People will not say much. It's very rare that people actually step in. They feel uncomfortable. You don't want to contribute to uncomfortableness. You are wiser than that.
Yeah.
We come from a very grounded approach.
Framing it from a mutual positive. Like going back to the late example, because it's a perfect example. So many of us have friends that for some reason, some people find it really difficult to be on time. But just, I love spending time with you, but my time is becoming shorter.
Yeah.
So if both of us could really make sure we're on time or earlier next time, we can spend more time together.
Yeah, we can do it like that.
From that positive way, you're kind of setting a boundary. And then the next time you say, remember last time when we said,
Yeah. Yes, they have no access to you. That's what it is. That's what you do. And a perfect example, done it perfectly, Stephen. So you can be charming. That's charisma. You come from a charismatic boundary setting point of view. So look, my time is precious. I want to spend the time with you. I can't be late to other things. I have other things to do in my life too. And sorry, that's how it is. You just remove yourself from that situation. You don't have to sit there, wait until they come, let them even overstep more of your boundary, wasting more time. No. Have a look. Raven, journaling all the thoughts, fears, anxiety in the book, and then highlight what exactly you are going to say. Yes, do this. Really come from a heart-centered point of view, but we need to raise awareness of what we want in life. If we don't know what we want, how can you actually word that? So we need to become aware. And lots of people they don't have the awareness to understand what they want.
And we're not willing to accept as well.
Yeah. Love that. Don't tell them in a disrespectful way. No, Maria, so good to see you in here. No, we are really respectful. And people don't do this often because they think, but then they won. It's not about winning. It's about educating. I'm an educator at that point. It's no, not with me. I always say I'm the Gandalf. It's you shall not pass.
Yeah. It's educating and understanding, isn't it? And boundaries are mutual, which I just love that. The boundaries are in the middle. They're not mine. I don't own the boundary. They're for us.
It's for a nurturing relationship, right? So there are boundaries in place. I can't just, compromise everything. Of course, there might be compromises, but then I have to say why. For example, if your friend is, if you say, for example, don't call me at 12 o'clock at night because I'm going to bed and need to sleep, and you have a friend who constantly talks to you because they go through heartbreak and they have nobody and they feel really low, great. You say, look, okay, let's talk quickly, but my sleep is also important, right? Because I need to work the next day or functioning fully. But let's talk for 15 minutes. I usually don't do it. So you should be allowed, but highlight why you're compromising your boundaries, and that this is, if that's the case, a one-off.
That's really important as well. The why. Explain why you're bringing this up. But very often we feel as if we don't need to explain ourselves. I don't need to tell them why I'm setting this boundary or why this is. No, it very much nurtures the relationship for the other person to understand, because we think they know. We think they can see what we can see. No, they really can't see what we can see because they don't have our eyes, our filters, our experience, our life.
It's really interesting. As for example, a very simple example is somebody is buying you a present and you are very, very happy about it, or you take that gesture, but maybe you can't use it. Maybe somebody buys you alcohol and you can't drink. So you are now scared to tell them that, right? So that's, for example, and it's maybe not, they don't know that boundary. The boundary is, please don't buy me any alcohol, because maybe you have difficulties with that. So we need to, they want to give you a present. You don't want to disappoint them. So sometimes Years later, we say to them, actually, please, can you not buy me that? Because there's a vulnerability, I can't have that, or I don't like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's
And also,
really,
sorry to interrupt, also leaving it too long, it creates the other thing that they might say, well, I wish you told me 2 years ago.
absolutely.
Because, and then you're not creating the shame, guilt loop in them.
Yes, absolutely.
So there is a balance between, yeah, it's realizing what we're willing to accept or what we're happy with, you know.
It stays true to yourself, living
True to
healthy
yourself.
relationships. You will do mistakes. I'm not saying you have to do it from now on perfectly. What I want you to do is having the guts to start setting boundaries. And then you're Emma, so good to see you. One of the challenges is assumption. I hold how could they not know this? Yeah, absolutely. Like I said at the beginning, people do this because they think, oh, that's supposed to be my soulmate. So my soulmate has to read also minds. Great. You will never find anybody like that. We want to have these ready-made relationships. We dream, we have that unhealthy understanding that the relationship we're supposed to be in should be perfect straight away, instantly made. Here's like your pot noodle relationship. Ready, done, right? It's not. We need to work. High caliber relationships work on themselves all the time. Like I said, it's like, that's how you become desirable, how you become really, how you have an interesting relationship. You're doing different things. You are encouraging each other to grow and not always doing the same things. You say, look, well, how can we do it actually better? How can we level up, right? We do this now. How can we level up? And not like, well, lots of people stay in that mediocre relationship, keep it at that level, and they're fighting that they're not dropping. Instead of saying, hey, actually an interesting relationship is, how do I level up? How do I go higher?
Well, what I find myself doing sometimes is complaining to one person about how another person is not stepping up to what I think they should be, instead of going to that original person and setting the boundaries. And I do it less because I catch myself doing it, but I still do it.
Yeah.
And we feel as if we're sorting it out by complaining to somebody else. It's like, well, I'm going to phone a friend about it, but I'm not going to phone the friend that the one can. And it's all about us realizing what we're willing to accept.
Yeah, it's like have that conversation.
So one other last thing then is, if we practice setting boundaries with ourselves first, have a serious conversation with ourselves, what we're willing to, because very often we don't live up to our own boundaries.
Standards, yeah. I would say less of standards.
Standards. And if we don't live up to our standards, how can we expect other people to live up to those standards? So the one way we can grow the courage and the wisdom and the understanding of boundaries and standards is to what we're not willing to tolerate from ourselves. And if we're not willing to tolerate gossip from others, let's not do it to ourselves. Let's not.
Absolutely. You become the person you want. You do this next to it. And people are like, oh, Jenny, I'm exhausted. I have to work on myself and work on the boundary setting. And yeah, that's, if you can't do anything else at the moment, you start writing down, what are your standards? How's your ideal life and partner? And that's actually a proper tool in therapy too. So how I imagine that if you wake up in the morning, miracle happens overnight. It's a miracle question. It's from a solution-based focused therapy. So it's like really, having a look, how does your ideal life look like? Who's in it? How do they behave? How did you get there? What are your characteristics? How did you get there? So write all the stuff down, dream big, massive, and then, and work on yourself. Again, you don't have to be perfect and tick all the boxes before you enter a relationship, because the relationships always will highlight where we need to learn. But find somebody who's a teammate, who wants to work and say, hey, I'm excited, brilliant. There's finally somebody who is like awake and wants to work on things, right?
Yeah.
So you become the person you want to attract. You become charming, nice. If you have like ripped, kind, charismatic, self-confidence and everything, you start to get ripped, kind, self-confident,
be
charismatic.
what you want to
Yeah.
attract.
Yeah, that's what you become, because that, guess what?
Yeah.
If you become that person, you very likely, if you want to get ripped, mingle with people who eat healthy. So hopefully you do it in a healthy way, right? We want to have high caliber stuff. You go maybe into a gym. If you want to be self-confident, you might turn to certain groups or read certain books, talk to certain people, and all of a sudden you attract these people into your life.
Yeah.
Because it's the mindset. Your mindset attracts the person you have currently. So the partner who's overstepping your boundary reflects the mindset you have, because you're willing to take it.
I'm going to go through some of these comments at the end really, really quickly now because of time. And I so agree with these. Like Maria says, nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
Before it grows too much, because we grow these things so much. Love your passion on this topic, Jim.
Oh, Emma, thank you.
I agree.
It's interesting, isn't it?
You found the one thing that you love most. And I've been watching you for years. We've been friends now for probably 4 years.
Yeah, probably
haven't
longer.
we? With YDF and all that. And we've been niching down, haven't we, slowly to what we really, and seeing it more and more come alive, and you coming alive, and so agree with Emma there.
Boundaries are attractive. If you don't take anything else out of it, if you don't know how to start, that's your affirmation. Boundaries are attractive. Boundaries are sexy. They're great. If you want to become desirable, boundaries are attractive.
Yeah.
Break that. That should be your constant mantra. Put it on your, on your computer screen, on your phone, put it on your fridge. I don't know, everywhere. That should be your mantra.
We don't want the confrontation.
We don't like confrontation. Yeah, but we should see it not as a confrontation. We should see it as love, education, and helping people rise with us.
Yeah,
we don't want to drown. We don't want to drown with people. We want to rise with people.
Yeah, I love that, Raven. And going on what you're saying, stability is not rigidity. There's no stability in a rock. Stability is in your roots, in your foundation, what you're willing to accept.
Absolutely.
And move with it. And before you ask them, say, I'm working on this myself. Can you help me? That's so powerful. Can you help me?
You're like on that, yeah. And some people want to help, some people don't, because your compromise on the boundary has benefits for them, and it has benefits for you too.
And if they don't want to help, have compassion for them, because they've got more problems than you have.
Yeah, absolutely. But at least then it's a final boundary. The final boundary is walking away, and there are not many final boundaries, and sometimes it's not even forever, because they now need to digest that too. There's a limited edition person here. You become limited edition. You do this. And that way, you are like really limited edition. You want to have limited edition, high caliber relationship. You start having limited edition, high caliber mindset and behavior. You start today. No excuses, no procrastination. If you're scared, hey, Steve is here. I'm here. That's why we do what we do, isn't it? So beautiful to connect to everybody on here. It's great, isn't it? So if people understand boundaries are attractive, I'm happy today.
You have helped so much for me today, because I got to be honest, boundaries are something that I didn't find attractive or sexy, or I seen boundaries as a challenging thing to set up, and I had an allergy towards them, primarily because I'm around people with lots of healthy boundaries that I often see as often against me, but they're really not. They're really not. So you have helped so much today, Jenny. I'm so glad we did this, and I think we need to do it again if you're willing in
more than
a couple of months or something.
More than happy. If people want me back and you want to learn more, I'm coming back. More than happy to do that.
I want you back.
Hey! That's
And I'm
great.
sure everybody only does. You know, it really has made a difference. And I've got my window fixed.
See, great.
Somebody broke the handle off my window. Of course, not by not deliberate. And the window last night in the wind, it was the carer's window upstairs in the bedroom. And I was lying in bed thinking, it's so windy last night, as you probably heard because you're just up the road.
Yeah.
So we got like 70, 90 mile an hour winds, and this window's upstairs with no handle, so they couldn't close it. And I was lying in bed thinking that window's going to smash, it's going to thing. So I managed to get them to go and fix it today. So I'm, you know, the winds of today, and yeah, boundaries are awesome, aren't they?
They're amazing.
How
It's
much they help
amazing.
us grow.
See, they're hiding behind that boring kind of word and everything like that. Everybody, no, we don't like it. And it's the best tool you can have. Trust me. You want to grow big, you do that.
And
Karen,
Karen, there's a few comments, Karen, that I wanted to go back to, but we kind of run out of time. I would love to connect with you, Karen. Karen, can she connect with you, Jenny, as well?
Yes, please feel free. Yeah, DM me.
I was sending Karen, if for your permission, can I send Karen your link to your free consultation?
Karen. Yes, please. If you need that, yeah, feel free.
I recognize really everything what Karen said in me as well. So that's why I want to reach out. And I agree with Emma here. She says, oh gosh, I felt like my roof was coming off last night with the wind.
Yeah, I know. That's gone crazy, isn't it?
So thank you, Jenny. Thank you, everybody. And is there a last thought you want to leave everybody with?
Oh gosh, yeah. Don't be scared. Boundaries are now, sometimes the fear can lead the way to something better. So don't let it restrict you. If you're scared of boundaries, if you're scared of setting them, that's usually an indication that's where you need to go. That's where you need to work on, right? So let it inform you, and not don't let the fear of setting boundaries keep you away from setting boundaries, because that keeps you away from living. That's avoidance. We don't want that, right? And you can grow so much. So don't be scared. Don't be scared. And if there's anything I can help you with, DM me. I'm happy to. Just DM me, or join the group, or ask Stephen. Or anything. Yeah, we are here to help. Literally here to help. So you can grow in the best possible version of yourself. Be happy. That's what I want too. I want that people understand you can be happy and set boundaries. Amazing.
Yeah, boundaries are not restricting, they're freeing.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Thank you, everyone.
My pleasure. TTFN.